Hello, good afternoon and welcome to BBC News. Secondary schools in England have been told that children should wear face coverings in classrooms to help stop COVID disrupting the new term. The move brings England in line with the rest of the UK. Unions have welcomed the advice while also warning that staff shortages could once again lead to some children being taught at home. Sandra Berg reports.
In Scotland, pupils have been wearing masks as they learn, with the windows open, for the last few months. The picture's similar now in Northern Ireland and Wales.
A is definitely the better response. So
Next week, English secondary students will follow suit as the government tries to reduce the spread of COVID in schools. Around half of children over 12 have been double jabbed, not enough to keep the virus out.
The face coverings is very much a short-term measure, simply to the 26th of January when it will be reviewed, because we recognise that it is not something that many children will want to wear. It recognises the priority of ensuring face-to-face education is made available. That's our number one priority.
Some are worried that this could affect children's learning, which has been so disrupted for the last 2 years.
And goodness is very low risk to children, so I'm very wary. I will listen to what the government says, but I am very wary about imposing masks on children in schools because I worry about their well-being, their anxiety and their mental health, which has already suffered because of school closures during lockdown.
Good morning. But it's backed for now by the teaching unions.
If this is a short-term fix, as the government says, and one of a number of different measures, including ventilation and moving Ofsted to the sidelines, if that's going to do what we all want and keep young people in their school or in their college, then that will, I think, be a price worth paying.
No one wants to return to remote learning, where children were isolated, some put at risk. But head teachers are looking at contingency plans in case staff are hit by COVID when schools return next week. Sandra Berg, BBC News.
Thangam Debonair is Labour's shadow leader of the House of Commons and joins us now. What do you make of this move with the face masks being required in classrooms?
Well, obviously, we all want children back in school. We want children learning. We want them with their friends. But we want them to do that safely. Masks are an additional layer of protection. And with Omicron raging around the country, it is important that we try everything to help children to be able to learn safely. But it's unfortunate that the government has failed to heed the warnings that they had from SAGE, the Scientific Advisory Group, last May, not even May 21, but May 2020, that ventilation in schools was vital because they haven't addressed that. It's also important that they address some of the other factors that are involved in the spread of Omicron, and so that children can get back to learning properly as soon as possible. I think it's also, yet again, here we are again, 1 year on from schools being told one thing and then told another right at the end of school holidays, next to just about to go back to school. So whilst I'm pleased that children are going to be able to continue learning in person, because learning at home isn't good for their mental well-being, and for some of them it's deeply unsafe and unsatisfactory, it's concerning that we still don't have everything set up, because the government, by failing to heed the warnings about ventilation and sick pay and other factors, they are unfortunately still letting children down, and that's just not acceptable.
That said, that the government is making 7,000 air purifying units available to schools and colleges, isn't it?
Yes, but there's 27,000 schools, and it's a bit late, and air purifiers aren't the whole answer. We needed the government, and we've been calling on the government to sort out proper ventilation for months now. 7,000 air purifiers, frankly, isn't going to cut it. Yes, it's a help, but it's only going to be a help for those 7,000 classrooms into which they go. That's not going to answer the problem for all children across the country, and surely we want all children to be able to learn safely.
And then when we look at the warning on the absences within the public sector, but also other firms as well, being warned to expect up to 25% staff absences, what do you think needs to be done to help support those organisations with such large numbers being down?
Well, there's two critical things that the government has failed on and would have helped public sector and private sector organisations to keep going, and that's testing and it's sick pay. Now, again, we've been calling for the government to sort out sick pay for months now, because if you are on a low income and you're not entitled to sick pay and you get sick, you're going to be tempted, because you want to be able to put food on the table, you're going to be tempted to consider just keeping on going, which of course puts you at risk and others potentially, but it's understandable why that might happen. A fixable problem, and one that many people have called to be sorted out by the government. The other one, of course, is testing. Now, I was in the chamber when the House of Commons chamber when Sajid Javid, the Health Secretary, said on the 13th of December that there were tens of millions of lateral flow tests in stock and that millions more were arriving each day, that expansion plans were going ahead to deal with distribution. But here we are, it's the 2nd of January, and we know now that home tests are not available, home delivery is not available, and for many people being able to pick up a test from a chemist is still not an option. That's just not good enough. It lets down businesses, it puts jobs at risk, and also failing to sort out sick pay. These two things combined are really putting our economy at risk, and it's just not on.
We've heard from the government today that on the basis of the current data, it doesn't look like more restrictions will be needed imminently in England. Do you agree with that analysis?
Well, obviously, I don't see the same data, and I'd quite like them to make sure that they're publishing everything that they have and being completely open, honest and transparent with us. None of us wants to see another return to lockdowns, and in order for that to work, we need all the other bits to work. And that means things like testing, that means things like getting ventilation right at school, it means things like sick pay. These are all things which the government could be addressing now, and frankly should have been addressing months ago, that would all help us so that we could try and bring down the rate of infection sooner rather than later, reduce the risk of hospitalisation, currently running at about 2,000 new hospitalisations a day, that we could bring those down sooner rather than later and try and get life a bit more back to something like normal. But it's not going to happen just by wringing their hands and saying, oh, there's no need for restrictions. They need to act. They need to take responsible steps, and ones that they have been advised of.
OK, Thailand Debonair, Labour's Shadow Leader of the House of Commons, thank you very much for speaking to us.